Most people are not tired because life is demanding. They are tired because they spend their days constantly explaining themselves. They explain why they made a certain decision, why they changed their mind, why they need space, or why their life looks different from what others expect. This habit often begins early in life. As children, we are taught that being understood equals being safe. We learn that if we can just explain ourselves well enough, people will approve, accept, or at least stop questioning us. Over time, this belief quietly turns into a mental burden that follows us everywhere. Every explanation carries emotional effort. Each time you justify your choices, you are subconsciously asking for permission to live your life the way you feel is right. This constant need for validation slowly drains confidence. Instead of standing in your truth, you start shaping your decisions around what will require the least explanation. That is how people lose touch with themselves without even realizing it. They begin living in reaction rather than intention. One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone asking questions genuinely cares about your well-being. Many people ask out of curiosity, comparison, or judgment. Some listen only to respond, not to understand. Others collect information so they can later criticize or offer advice that reflects their own fears, not your reality. When you explain yourself to these people, you are giving them influence over your emotional state. Their opinions begin to matter more than your inner clarity. The first lesson is simple but uncomfortable. Your life does not require public approval. You do not need to convince everyone that your choices make sense. What feels aligned to you may look confusing to someone else, and that is perfectly okay. Understanding is not a requirement for respect. You can be kind without being transparent. You can be respectful without being available to every question. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, distance, or arrogance. In truth, silence is one of the strongest forms of self-respect. Choosing not to explain does not mean you are hiding. It means you are protecting your energy. It means you trust yourself enough to let your actions speak over time. People who are grounded do not rush to clarify every misunderstanding. They know that clarity unfolds naturally through consistency. When you stop over-explaining, something powerful happens inside you. You feel lighter. You make decisions faster. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You begin to realize that peace comes not from being understood by everyone, but from being honest with yourself. The more you honor your inner voice, the less you feel the urge to defend it. And that is where true freedom begins. One of the deepest reasons people over-explain their lives is the fear of being misunderstood. Being misunderstood feels uncomfortable because it threatens our sense of belonging. We worry that if people see us the wrong way, they will withdraw their respect, love, or support. So we try to control the narrative. We add more details, we clarify our intentions, we repeat ourselves in different ways, hoping that eventually everyone will see us clearly. But this effort often creates the opposite effect. The truth is, misunderstanding is unavoidable. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, people will still interpret your words through their own experiences, insecurities, and expectations. Two people can hear the same explanation and walk away with completely different conclusions. This is not a failure of communication. It is the nature of human perception. The second lesson is accepting that clarity does not guarantee acceptance. You can be perfectly clear and still not be agreed with, supported, or understood. Once you accept this, something inside you begins to relax. You stop trying to control how others see you. You realize that your responsibility ends with honesty, not persuasion. Your job is not to convince people of your worth or the validity of your choices. Your job is to live in alignment with your values. When your actions are consistent, they speak louder than explanations ever could. The third lesson is understanding who actually deserves your words. People who truly care about you do not require constant explanations. They observe your patterns. They trust your character. They may ask questions, but their questions come from curiosity and concern, not suspicion or control. With these people, communication feels safe and natural. You do not feel the need to defend yourself. You feel heard even when you say very little. Over-explaining often comes from insecurity disguised as kindness. Many people believe they are being polite or considerate by explaining everything, when in reality they are seeking reassurance. They want confirmation that their choices are acceptable. But confidence does not need constant approval. Confidence is quiet. It does not rush to fill silence. It does not panic when someone disagrees or misunderstands. When you trust yourself, you speak less and stand firmer. You allow others to have their opinions without feeling threatened by them. You no longer feel responsible for managing everyone's comfort. This shift does not make you cold or distant. It makes you grounded. You become more present, more focused, and more emotionally stable. Freedom begins the moment you stop explaining your truth and start living it. Some people will understand you later. Some never will. But the right ones will feel your integrity without needing a long explanation. And that is enough. One of the most important lessons in personal freedom is learning the difference between privacy and secrecy. Many people feel guilty for not sharing everything about their lives. They confuse privacy with dishonesty. But privacy is not about hiding. Is something wrong. Privacy is about protecting something meaningful. Your thoughts, your struggles, your healing process, and your future plans are not public property. They are personal spaces that deserve care and intention. The fourth lesson is understanding that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Access should be earned through trust, consistency, and emotional maturity. Just because someone is curious does not mean they are entitled to answers. Some people ask questions not to support you, but to compare their progress with yours, to feel superior, or to quietly judge your choices. When you share deeply with the wrong people, you often walk away feeling drained, exposed, or misunderstood. The fifth lesson is realizing that explaining your pain to the wrong audience can make it heavier instead of lighter. Pain requires empathy, patience, and emotional intelligence to be held properly. Not everyone has that capacity. Some people minimize your struggles. Others turn them into gossip. Some offer advice too quickly, not because they understand, but because your vulnerability makes them uncomfortable. When this happens, instead of feeling relief, you feel regret for opening up. Silence in these moments is not avoidance, it is discernment. It is the ability to sense when speaking will not bring healing, but harm. Protecting your emotional energy is an act of self-respect. You are not obligated to make others comfortable by exposing your wounds. You are allowed to choose when, how, and with whom you share your story. Another powerful realization is that people can only understand life from their own level of awareness. If someone has never walked your path, felt your pressure, or faced your decisions, their understanding will always be limited. Explaining more will not expand their awareness, it will only exhaust you. Growth often requires quiet seasons where you focus inward instead of performing understanding for others. Privacy also protects your goals. When you explain your plans too early, you invite opinions before your vision is strong enough to withstand them. Doubt spreads easily. Silence gives your goals room to develop without interference. It allows you to move with clarity rather than constant self-doubt. When you stop explaining yourself to those who never intended to understand, peace begins to settle in. You feel more in control of your emotional space. You stop leaking energy into conversations that go nowhere. You realize that not every truth needs a witness. Some truths are meant to be lived, not discussed. True strength is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. And often, silence is what keeps you whole while you grow. The final lessons are not about cutting people off or becoming distant from the world. They are about reclaiming ownership of your life. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop negotiating your identity. You begin to move with a sense of quiet confidence that does not need validation. This is where true freedom begins, not in isolation, but in inner stability. The sixth lesson is trusting that your results will speak for you. When your focus shifts from explaining to doing, your energy becomes more effective. Consistent action over time communicates far more than words ever could. People may doubt your choices in the beginning, but outcomes have a way of changing perspectives. You do not need to announce every step or justify every decision. Let your growth unfold naturally. Let your progress answer questions you never responded to. The seventh lesson is understanding that real confidence is calm, not loud. Insecure confidence seeks attention and approval. Grounded confidence feels steady and unbothered. It does not rush to prove anything. When you stop explaining yourself, your presence changes. You speak with intention, you listen more, you react less. You no longer feel pulled into defending your path or correcting every misunderstanding. This quiet strength is often mistaken for distance, but it is actually clarity. Another important realization is that your life is not a group discussion. The eighth lesson is accepting that you are allowed to make decisions without consulting everyone. Advice is helpful only when it comes from those who understand your values and respect your autonomy. Too many voices create confusion. When you constantly explain your choices, you give others a vote in a life they are not responsible for living. Freedom begins when you take that vote back. With this shift, time opens up. Mental space clears. You stop rehearsing arguments in your head and start focusing on what actually matters. You become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of trying to be understood, you focus on understanding yourself. This creates emotional maturity. You learn to sit comfortably with disagreement. You allow others to think what they want without feeling threatened. Letting go of explanations also deepens your self-trust. Each time you choose action over justification, your confidence strengthens. You realize that you do not need permission to grow, to change, or to choose differently than before. You are allowed to evolve without explaining every chapter of your journey. When you stop explaining your life to everyone, you do not lose connection. You gain alignment. You stop living defensively and start living deliberately. And in that space of clarity and calm, life becomes lighter, more focused, and unmistakably your own,